Go for it, man.
All right, Chris. So, how'd you feel after the last few Fridays of stuff that we're doing?
So I'll be honest, I haven't worked on it since Friday.
Aren't you a trainer?
Yeah. So that means I have to train people. Unlike myself.
Responsibilities that are getting in the way of you doing your homework? I've never heard this before.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right. Hey, now you know what every one of my teachers growing up felt like. And you know how I feel when my clients are like, yeah, I didn't do the homework. Yeah, man, I was just messing with the rotation earlier. So the rotation for a while though held because I noticed when I did my other activities, like my running that I usually do, was better over the past few days. Nice. Now, here's another thing you're going to roll your eyes at because, like all other clients, I forgot to tell you this because you kept mentioning this TMJ thing. Man, I can't eat a sandwich without clearing a room. So you were mentioning it before class last week.
This is muscles, not gastrointestinal stuff.
Yeah, I know. My jaw can go all the way to the right. Pops every time I eat something, up to and including like a slice of pizza or something. Okay, I can chew gum and people can hear me in another room.
Cracking?
Oh yeah, all the time. Never had a pain. Never had a lockjaw. Never any of that. I could always move my jaw more to the right than I could to the left. And we were talking last week, and as we were getting up, I said to Michelle, I'm like, oh, check it out. I can go, and I could go, and it going to that left, it just tightens up and everything. I'm like, all right, whatever. Later on after class, I'm driving around doing stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute. Pull over for a second. My right jaw and my left jaw are moving exactly the same. So there's no right. And then what happened? It popped and now it's normal ever since. That lasted about a half hour, 45 minutes.
Okay. That after last Friday?
After last Friday. That was a really cool sign. And I'm like, yeah, still tight. Oh, no, moving everywhere.
Cool. And so, okay, so that's fun. We can definitely talk about that because there's a reason why that might happen. I'm going to switch cameras here and get set up. Just going to work. Whoops, wrong thing. But, hold on a second. Sorry. So, Chris, you said the trunk rotation lasted a little longer. How much longer is longer?
Oh, I want to say, because I was checking it prior to, diving in with clients. I'm going to say it lasted about 2 to 3 days. Probably by Wednesday, it started to all collapse.
Okay, so amazing. So just really quickly with that, this is the whole idea of why we talk about short-term potentiation and long-term potentiation and why I bring them up so often. Because if we take this idea of a short-term potentiated skill, whether it be contraction, whether it be learning a new language, a musical instrument, a movement on the field, whatever it is. There is that simple 3-step motor learning system that we've all heard me say a few times, right? There's a cognitive stage where your brain is interpreting the information. There's an associative phase, which is why I love the Hebbian learning model, right? Associative means you take something that you've learned and you try to connect it to something else that you know. And then the other part of it is the autonomous stage. And so for all these movements that we do willy-nilly and we don't think about them, regardless, either from just how we develop as humans, our genetics, our current health status, our current conditioning, all that comes together that you have some autonomous movement behaviors that you can do. And theoretically, based off of how we understand the human body, it should be relatively symmetrical. It should be. So the more often that you do something, right, the law of repeated effort, there's going to be a point of like positive diminishing return in that you won't have to do the same exercise to do the same level of thing at the same challenge. And I love calling on powerlifters as a really great example, good powerlifters, because if you got a powerlifter who can deadlift 500 pounds, they'll go into the gym and they'll pick up 425 for doubles and they won't get tired. Like they can maybe do the 425 for 5 reps. But what they'll do is they'll do the 425 for 10 sets of 2. So they're not hitting fatigue, but they get insanely efficient at moving that 425. Then they go to 435. And when they get insanely efficient, because powerlifting, there's this point where it's not, and same with this, like there's a parallel here. It's not just about how much muscle you have. It really is how efficient you are at using what you have. And this is where you see guys who are my size, smaller, picking up 600 or 700 pounds. They have not gotten more muscular. They've just gotten more organized. And that is that short-term to long-term potentiated thing, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today and tomorrow in the EXS thing. So I'll make sure you guys get access to it. But Chris, there's 2 things you said that I want to touch on, and then we'll actually implement off of it. First and foremost, black. Right, eyes, mouth. Right, as much as this is fun and cheesy, all of these systems and all of these neurons are intimately connected. And so we'll have seen a couple different, I've talked about this before, that if I've got this brain up here with this nervous system that's going down through it, and we'll call right here OC1 or C0C1. There are muscles of the ocular motor system that attach to the nervous system. This is not going to be an accurate representation, but it's going to just help me describe it. There are nerves that go from here and go to C1. Lots of them. All these small muscles on the inferior, superior, lateral, and medial aspect of the eyes that all come down and attach to the C0, C1 segment. Same on the other side, obviously. Same time, we have some muscles of the mouth and the jaw, like this big guy right here, and platysma, that are huge, huge muscles that help to orchestrate TMJ movement, and they come to the same spot. Then, lateral to that, and I'm not trying to make this complicated, but it really, if you think of any muscle that you know that's here, like traps, and I'll just draw a cheesy looking little muscle here to make life easy, right? Muscle spindle style, right? You got a trap muscle, your traps, along with SC, sternocleidomastoid, and levator scap, and all these other huge muscles, along with all these deeper muscles, also connect to that same nerve segment. So if you look in that Roger Anoka book that I've talked to you about so much, and there's this thing called activation spillover, which references basically exactly as it sounds, is if I have a cup of water and I fill that cup with water, and then the water spills over a little bit, if there are cups below it, the cups below it, just like a fountain, are going to catch some of that. Now, that's not literally what happens, but since these nerves are all intimately connected and there are homonymous motor units that connect all of them together, right? I use, when I talk about common drive, antagonist and agonist, but talking about like bicep being agonist and then the tricep being antagonist, as you know, is not very fair to say, because if I'm in a different plane and I'm resisting force this way into horizontal abduction, both biceps and triceps have some opportunity to contract to do this motion and this motion. So they work as agonists together. And so this is where any of your platforms or any trainer that talks about isolated muscles, period, like I don't need to go down this road because I think you guys all know this, like it is literally impossible. It is literally impossible to isolate one muscle unless you're using like electrical stimulation. And even in that case, if the person's alive, you're still going to get information carryover. You pretty much probably need a dead cadaver to have isolated information in one muscle. So we didn't do anything for your TMJ. But what we did see, and I don't know this for sure, but this is a great way to start thinking about it, is that some of the information that we had go through here, this looking up strategy we did, it's sending information, as you guys know, through the periphery into the central nervous system and into the brain, where Chris goes, yes, I like it, no, I don't like it, and interprets that sensation. Better not get an F in migraine, Brandon, or I'll tell you, right? That's what's going on up here. But all these things, the sensation, the motor control, the skill pathway, there is no way that afferent information, right? Efferent exiting, afferent kind of going back, arriving, is not going to spill over to muscles that connect to the same segments. It's impossible for it not. So if I just do this, you guys can see that my forehead, and I'm not exaggerating, it's almost impossible for me not to move these muscles with my eyes when I look up. My muscles on the top of my forehead literally don't have any correlation to what my eyeballs are doing, but they're intimately programmed, connected to the same system. They're also connected to these muscles right here. There's no way this thing can't get yanked on without this getting yanked on. And you guys can look up this again. This is I know I'm brushing over a lot here, but you guys have heard of the stretch reflex. Like, this is one of the things that muscle activation techniques hangs their hat on. However, you're considering that is if you do take a tissue and you yank on it, you pull on it, there is mechanical information that goes through the mechanoreceptors that your body interprets that information. So if I do this and these muscles contract, and this muscle here is also connected to some of these muscles, it's pulling on the origin and insertion, meaning that this yanking is going to send information through this muscle, which means that when this muscle gets deformed, either actively or passively, calcium is going to get into that muscle. It's going to get slightly potentiated. It's going to get stimulated. And all of a sudden, we get this hot. This is the reason why, again, like, this is why, if anyone's watched me talk about this, or you've taken MSS, or you've heard about it, you're like, well, why are you collecting so many range of motion samples? What Chris just said on this is exactly why. It's exactly why. We can't collect enough information digitally right now. Like, this is where I don't like to do personally. I won't start with a new client like this, but with an existing client where I've collected the data, I know. Because if Chris came in and said, I had a concussion, right? I got hit this way. I want to know about the eyes. I want to see jaw range of motion. I want to do capital range of motion skull. I want to do cervical range of motion. I want to do all those different configurations we did 2 weeks ago that Ryan was asking about. Not because I want to be anal retentive, but I want to make sure I've collected that data. So if we do see something like you said, Chris, my jaw can't go to the left, I can either do a TMJ assessment to actually see is there influencing the performance of the rest of the body. 2, leave it aside, do the stuff that we're doing for the ocular motor system, and then see, does this change? And if it does, we have 2 different things we can, I mean, there's a lot of things, but simply we can consider a couple things. Is the ocular motor system influencing the jaw? Or is the jaw maybe a bigger part of this that we haven't considered? Or are they working together? I mean, that's all these different things that we can ask. So I hope this visual here is helpful, because I think that it kind of just helps to connect the idea that everything, and then also the other thing too that makes it a little bit weirder, and it's specific. I said it last week, and you guys can, I need a better color that stands out. I specifically referenced this last week or the week before, right? In the central nervous system, in the extended nervous system, like central nervous system to the periphery, below the face, most of the communication happens that if I've got this nervous system going down, left side nerves communicate to left side muscles. Left side ganglions, basal ganglions stick out, go to those muscles on the left side. Right side, right side, right side, right side. That still happens up here, but there's an intimate connection that happens up here where when this eye does something, there's information that goes to this eye. And when this eye does something, there's information that goes to this eye. And no matter what, there's this converging that happens in this crossing in which you cannot do something to your left eye that does not do something to the right eye. And you cannot do something to the right eye that does not do something to the left eye. And I mean, if anyone's like, I'm sure you guys all get that. We were watching David Attenborough's Life in Color, I think it's called, last night, like the new Discovery thing on Netflix where he's doing all the really cool. But the funny thing is, it got me thinking about eyeballs, because he's got these crabs that pop up and they can move their eyes in individual directions and kind of like they can look in 2 different spots at the same time. Right? We can't do that. I mean, you see some people on Guinness Book of World Records where they can kind of do these crazy things, but ultimately, I don't even think you can learn that. And the big reason why that's important to bring up is that means that here's a great example of that. If Chris has, he does, I don't think, Chris, you don't have a glass eye, do you? That's good news. Not that you're aware of, at least, right? So let's say, and it's terrible, right? But every organ in our body has this sensory recognition, right? That this eye, even though this eye is interpreting all the light around me and the colors and the distances between things at all times, it's constantly sensing information. If I remove this sensory organ, and these two sensory organs, I1 and I2, are supposed to work together. I cut this out and I put a prosthetic, like a fake eyeball in here that has no information, right? What's going to end up happening, and I'm sure you guys know this, but these two eyes together are supposed to interpret our three-dimensional world and helps us with depth perception. And once we take that one away, now this one eye is left doing all the work. Now, if we've talked about, like, taking principles we talked about before, this idea of we have this cup of water, this cup and water, and this cup of our nervous system can only take so much information at one spot at a time. And I shouldn't say that, pardon me, there's only so much juice to go around. So if I'm doing 5 things at once, my body's going to disperse some of that fluid all over the place. If I've got these 2 things here and I'm trying to look this way, right, that takes focus in both of those systems. Well, if I remove one of those systems, what is the body going to do? You guys have seen this with other parts of the body. It's going to double down on this eye. It's going to put so much more focus into this eye, right? Perfect example if you've seen someone that's blind and they have an incredible sense of smell, right? Part of that is a learned behavior. Part of that is there are additional sensory resources available to the nervous system to get better at doing X, Y, and Z. So if he's got this, and again, I know this will seem extreme, but we have to know where this goes so we can look at the smaller influences on the, the black to white, all the scales of gray. So we got this blind eye. This eye is going to take a bunch more information. It's going to do everything it can, right? And what I tell you guys before, if I'm blind here, the body's going to turn to make this eye come forward. Now, coming back to all of this nervous system information, that means that everything from C0 to C1 of the eye to the TMJ to the trap to whatever else is coming out of this system are all going to be receiving more afferent information from the nervous system at all times. And this is where you might see someone with a glass eye using this eye, their trap might be larger on this side, right? They might, all that kind of stuff. Does that kind of make sense? So listen, I didn't mean to go on a tangent there, but I think what you're saying, Chris, is super important. And it's the reason why that studying all these things is vital. Because it's not, right, we don't have many people coming in with glass eyes. But of everyone that's here right now, what we got 3 everyone that's here, all 4 of you guys are ex-athletes. I know Chris has had a concussion. I bet you Rich, have you had a concussion? Football? Maybe. Probably a concussion, right? Ryan, you had a concussion? 3 concussions. Fantastic. Yeah, you're winning so far, right? Taylor, have you had a concussion? He hasn't spoken,
yes.
So we're going to say you had a concussion. And I've had
very bad, in the hospital for 2 days. It was borderline a coma.
There you go. Okay.
Got clothesline sliding on ice at school.
So of all 5 here, right? Of these 5 people, we have over 5 concussions between the 5 of us, which means that this adds credence to wanting to learn. You should learn more about the influence of these pieces. Anyway, I'm not going to rant more about that, but that's where I've had people that I've talked about this before outside of the context of a course. And why are we talking about this? This seems like so much. I'm like, well, this is why. Chris can't move his jaw to the left side. And every time he chews a piece of bubble gum, it cracks like crazy. And every time he goes home, Michelle's looking at him, doing the eye because he's cracking his jaw and she's trying to watch his TV show and have a glass of wine. Listen, I know how it is. And then all of a sudden, you do some eye motor control stuff, and then all of a sudden that goes away. If we can make those correlations stronger, I'm not saying that you're going to be in a position where you can start promoting that you're helping people with TMJ problems, but the aggregate motion of the left side moving better does help neck performance and does help everything else. Anyway, Chris, I hope, was any of that what I just said remotely true?
Well, she's kind of gotten used to the noise that comes from the jaw.
I'm going to tell you something, because I'm married. They don't get used to the noise. They tell you they are. They don't. Okay, so let's go to the gym floor. Let's do some stuff.
I can only go by what she tells me, man.
So my wife, we are about 5 weeks away from having the baby, and she's at the point in the pregnancy where I'm pretty sure she has superpowers. Because like my jaw will crack in the other room, and I'll look up a few seconds later, and she's standing in the doorway. She goes, "What happened?" Like,
Where are we going?
let's go back to the trunk rotation machine, but we're gonna do a little bit of assessment.
All right, you gotta help me here. My camera person's busy today.
It's long. I think we'll be fine. We just need to be. That's fine, Chris. But I want to be able to get you an open space. We're gonna do some standing motion assessments here. I'm switching.
Okay. Yeah, open space. I some of.
Ryan, Rich, Taylor, Chris. Before I do any assessment with Chris today, and we start incorporating that jaw stuff, do any of you guys have any questions at all about anything that I said? Does it? I mean, I know it's a lot in 24 minutes of like just dumping nervous system pieces. Does it make mostly sense, like that everything's connected?
Yes.
Right, cool.
Absolutely.
Right. And don't worry about the specific names. I think that as long as we know that there's an intimate connection with all these things, that's helpful. Chris, can you stand up? I just want to see if you stand up. Are you out of frame? Okay, let's get you to move that camera back. Chris, maybe about 3 or 4 feet. Actually, that'd be fine. Right there's perfect. Are you on wheels?
Yeah, man. I get my little
Look at you.
that little desky thing that I
Okay.
wheel around like a puppy when I'm with clients. Got
Amazing.
someplace to put like the tools of the trade, files, coffee.
Like an old school waitress. I love it. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take the information that we have from Chris from last week. We're going to recheck it because he said it lasted for a while. And if it lasted for 2 to 3 days, we're on that long-term potentiation side of things. So that's fantastic. Honestly, and I'm not just trying to tease Chris, if he did his homework, it probably would have stuck all the way to today, right? Because, and this is the idea, and this is perfect for like professional expectations, right? Chris saying, hey, we did it a few times. I didn't do my homework, but 2 to 3 days it stuck around. Now you've got evidence to go, hey, you know what? That's great. It lasted for 2 or 3 days. That tells me that if you do it at least once every 2 days, we'll probably be ahead. You think you could sneak that in, Chris? Right? That kind of like, okay. So let's stop talking, Brandon. So really first, Chris, hands across your chest. Can you just do no eyeballs, Rubik's Cube rotation? So thoracic on lumbar to the left and then the right, or right then the left. Spotlighting me, Chris. Okay, cool. Do that one more time, please. Okay, so it looks like a little bit less left rotation to me again, but not a lot. How's it feel to you, Chris?
Right side feels like a slightly bit tighter than the left, but it's like doesn't matter.
Okay.
Fine.
No, it's important, right? So
But
left, right row.
As Charlie would say, it's not the elephant eating his peanuts.
Right, but it's still, and this is where you want to have that conversation because now we got pretty good evidence, right? Left rotation visually is less, right rotation feels less to you. So I'm not going to challenge you on that. Like that's how it is, and that's cool. Okay, so let's go back. Eyes up, and while your eyes are up, when you turn to the left, and let's see what that does, if it does anything today. Okay, cool. Relax. And then eyes up, and then the right, please. Okay. So visually to me, that looks like it exacerbated the left side rotation a little bit. How's it feel for you, Chris?
The right felt harder to do. Like I felt,
Right felt
more like, come on, shoulder, get me there, kind of thing on the right. Left felt smooth.
So at this point in the training sessions, we got a pretty good idea that we're going to have to be doing this exercise with the rotation with the eyes up to both left and right. So when we get him in the Med-X machine, we're just going to do both right off the bat because this is a personal training session where we're considering these things. Before we do, hold on, Chris, we're not done yet. Don't get in there yet. Now we got this jaw info, right? So keep your hands where you are. Try not to move your torso at all. Can you have your jaw, actually, this is going to be hard to do. Open your jaw as wide as you can. Okay, and then close your jaw and tense your teeth. Slowly open your jaw. Yeah, it's hard to tell over camera. Okay, relax. So sometimes you'll watch people. You can't. I've never done this over camera, so pardon me. But when you have people open their jaw, so if they're locked up in one side and they open their jaw, what you'll sometimes see is if they're locked on this side, they'll open and then they'll sway to that side. I'm exaggerating a lot, where they go. Rup. I can't tell with Chris. It looks like you are a little, but I don't want to pretend. So let's do this. So Chris, with your jaw, I want you to have your jaw slack so your teeth are just not touching together. And when they're not touching, I want you to try and sway it to the left. So kind of like this. Yeah, and then to the right. Okay. How does that feel to you?
The left feels tighter, like I can feel everything locking up.
Okay.
All down that side. Right feels like it's like by my ear.
Now, on a quick side note, I don't want to discount what Chris is feeling, but when someone says something like, it feels like it's locking up on the left, it's possible it is locking up. It's also possible that there's an acute sensation there from trauma or pain. And no matter what, both of those could create a similar response. So Chris, we're going to experiment with a range of motion assessment here. I want to see something. We're sticking with the trunk rotation. I'm going to call it, what I want you to do is, you ever see those cartoons where someone's fishing and they throw their line in and it actually catches someone's lip before they throw it in the water, and you see someone get pulled, right? So what I want you to do is we're going to use your jaw and we're going to get fish hooked to the side that you're rotating. So what you're going to do, I'll describe it, then show it. Jaw slack. You're going to bring your jaw all the way over to the left. When you run out of jaw motion to the left, then we're going to try and do that trunk rotation. So it'll be kind of like an A-B thing. You're going to go, yeah, there you go. You got it. Smart trainer. Good. Come back. Cool. Do the same thing. Right and right. Okay, Chris, come back for a second. Relax. Don't do the jaw thing. Just rotate to the left as far as you can, like with the Rubik's Cube style. Okay, now sway it to the left and then fish hook it. Sorry, left again, please. Okay, cool. So honestly, it looks like it's a little bit less with the jaw, but like not massively so. So before I do anything with Chris, we're going to pick up where we left off last week. We're going to actually do something with the trunk rotation. Does anyone have any questions at all? Okay, very quickly, Taylor just contributed. He did the same stuff with his dad's eyebrow. So you can do this with all different sorts of muscles for sure, which is kind of crazy.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
so
sorry.
Chris-
I meant the fish hook.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Oh, you actually fish hooked your dad's eyebrow.
Yeah, with my Mickey Mouse rod when I was 2.5.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Oh.
Hey, Chris, so what I want you to do, let's get you in the trunk rotation machine. Let's not have any load on it so we can kind of switch back and forth. So that way, are you able to set it up so you can rotate all the way to the left and the right without any load? So you just have the bracing on you?
Yeah.
Cool.
Can you see me?
I can see you. I can't see that MedX machine though. Do you mind shipping it here so we can hold on to it and take care of it for you? I'm just kidding.
Come on, everybody loves Ava. Oh, son of a biscuit, almost lost it.
All right, so let's load you up. Let's have the load off. And we're going to try and see if we can double down on this. And honestly, if you have a trunk rotation machine, you can do this. Great. So Chris, I want you to hug that machine. What I do want you to do today, which for performance-wise, I don't normally recommend this, but for this, it'll work just fine. I want you to brace your abs as hard as you can. So you're going to create a nice firm contraction, like Michelle, we're going to punch you in the stomach. While you're doing that, I want you to look up to your hairline. And while you're looking up, we're going to do brace midsection, eyes looking up. I want you to rotate all the way to the left. Keep looking up, and you're going to turn all the way to the right. And we're going to try and do this 3 times to each side while you're looking up the whole time. And I want you to get right to that end range of motion where you're bumping into the end range, just bumping into it a bit. Perfect. Keep looking up. If you need to rest your eyes, you can, but if you can, keep looking up. And we're going to go all the way to the left. Good. Keep looking up. Brace that midsection. Punch ready. Good. One more to each side. All the way to the right, and then we'll rest the eyes and rest everything and get you out of there. Good. Come on out of there, Chris. Now, while Chris is unloading to come stand up, a few months ago I talked about this idea of adaptations, right? The reason why I'm repeating a lot of the same stuff with Chris is we have evidence that makes a big change. His jaw felt better for 2 or 3 days. He was able to walk, run better, right? So we have this adaptation of when he's facilitating his contractions in his midsection and eyes together, he moves better. So I'm trying to see if we can speed up this process, but honestly, adding resistance and progressing it like a resistance training exercise will work fine as well. Hands across your chest, Chris, eyes looking up. While you're looking up in there, turn to the left as far as you can. Excellent. Come back, eyes looking up, and turn to the right. Let's just see if we have some symmetry, and then I want to hear how it feels from you. Not looking bad. How does it feel to you, sir?
The left felt great. The right felt like it went further, like I didn't need my shoulder as much to do it.
Okay.
Than it did prior to before we got in it.
Okay. So we're going to do one more trunk rotation thing here, and then we're going to actually move Chris to a different scenario because I want you guys to see some variation of how this would progress through a session. Because it's hard to do this in this education platform. That's what we're doing a lot of the same thing. We'll do something. Do you guys have the Med-X row or the Kaiser row or both?
Med-X row.
Is it unilateral?
Yes.
Beautiful. Cool. All right. So what I want you to do, slack jaw, fish hook it to the left like Taylor did with his Mickey Mouse rod, and then turn to the left all the way. Boom. Look at that. Big difference there. Slack jaw to the right. All right, cool. So, I mean, we're seeing consistency, right? That left side opened up quite a bit again, and that right side's getting tight. How's it feeling to you, Chris?
Of all 4 turns, that right side with the fish hook was the worst.
Yeah, I think so. It looked like that. So tell you what, let's get you back in the Med-X row. Let's put a little load on it. We're going to turn to the right.
The rotation.
Rotation. Yeah, pardon me. The rotation. Load it. So we're going to be resisting right rotation, and we're going to do something different here.
How much weight?
Something that's 30 to 40% of your effort. Nothing too hard. Okay. So all I want you to do, Chris, with that load, turn over to the left. Jaw slacked. You're going to slack your jaw to the right. And when you do this, don't push it too hard. Just get a little tension to the right side of your jaw.
Slack jaw or fish hook?
Slack jaw, then fish hook. Like you're letting it, and then you're going to the right. So bring the jaw to the right and then fish hook it. Once your jaw's to the right, then you're going to rotate over there. Go slow. It might feel weird. Now it starts to feel not too terrible and more manageable. Go a little faster to whatever you feel comfortable with, but don't go any faster than it feels safe and good. Great. Let's just do one more like that. I'm only doing 2, not because it's the repetition, it's just the time that he's under tension because he's focusing so much. So I don't want to gas him. Good. Come back, sir, and rest. How's that?
All right. It felt a lot more abby stuff with the jaw than not with the jaw.
Interesting. More contraction in the midsection?
Yeah. Like way more engagement there versus when I would just normally do it at that load.
Come stand up, sir. What did you feel with the abs? Were they working a lot, or were they getting tired? Are they uncomfortable?
No, they were just like saying, whoa, feels like a whole lot more than 42 pounds.
Now, this is a weird question, and I would actually ask this. When you do crunches, Chris, abdominal work, do you ever find that you can feel one side of your abdominals more than the other?
Not really, no.
Okay, cool. All right, hey, can you do that same slack jaw, so fish hook to the right, and then rotate your torso. That looks good. Okay, let's see what the left side looks like. Jaw to the left. Cool. Looks like it's not quite perfectly the same yet, but how does it feel to you, Chris?
This right side felt smoother
Cool.
than it did previous.
Cool. Hey, can we just recheck the eyes up, and then we're gonna go to the Med-X row. Eyes up, and go to the left, and then eyes up and go to the right. I just want to make sure nothing changed here too much. Cool. All right, sir. Feel okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Can you move us over to the Med-X row? And I'll talk for a quick second while you're doing that. But just to give everyone a tiny bit more context, while we got Chaos Camera here, what I would normally do, to be open with you, is I would be continuing down the stress path that we were doing last week, where we have him do the single leg squat and see how easily his body was perturbed to go back the way that it was. But once we get through a few cycles of that, and his body's keeping the trunk rotation, and he's keeping the rotation with his jaw slacked and his eyes up, then I'd move on to something like this. Now, I wanted to give you guys a bit of a different visual here. That's great, Chris. Can you set it up with like 40% of what 50% of what your load would be for a single arm row, and just see what it looks like? This is such a great machine. So for all of you, I don't know if you think of it this way, but upper extremity exercises, there is a ridiculous, as we talked about with the shoulder complex stuff on the Wednesdays, a ridiculous connection between most of the shoulder muscles in your trunk and spine via the rib cage, via the spinal attachment. Let's just see what that looks like there, Chris. How you're doing it, and then we'll talk about how to modify
Right
it.
side or left side?
Just do 2 reps on each side. I just want to see how it looks really quick from here. Okay. So really quickly, Chris, to do a couple more reps here. For everyone who's watching, look at his scapular elevators, like where his trap is. If you look at that top, I can't point to it, but if you look there, he's extending it and it's lengthening. And then as he pulls it back, his elbow comes past his body right there. He kind of shrugs up a little bit, including retraction. So everyone knows you retract when you row. One more time, Chris. Come all the way back and then hold it back for just a second. Right there. His trap has to start coming up once you get to a certain point of extension. Come out of there for a second, Chris. And so, again, we've talked about this. I'll just do this very quickly, is that when you extend your arm back far enough, at a certain point, there's a point where you're going into scapular elevation and you're starting to shrug up a little bit. And so when you're doing a rowing exercise, not for today's conversation, but for bodybuilding, if you're doing all this bottom stuff, once you get past here, and you start doing this, there's a point of diminishing return if lats and teres major and all that stuff is your main focus. If you're doing it for function, what we're doing, Chris, going for the whole motion might have some merit, which would be great. So, Chris, what I want you to do here is come back, stand up for a quick second. We're going to recheck both the eye and jaw motion, and then we're going to try something here. What I want you to do, eyes up, rotate to the right and the left, see if there's any difference. Then we'll do fish hook to the right and left. Great, come back, and then the jaw. Okay, great. So at this point, it's looking pretty good. So what did we see last, right? The very last thing we did that improved all this was the right side rotation with the right side jaw. So Chris, go into the machine, grab the right side handle. We're going to use your right side shoulder extensors as a part of the right side trunk rotation. Once you grab the handle, before you do any motion, you guys won't be able to see this as viewers, but I want you to slack your jaw to the right side, keep it over to the right side, and I want you to do 10 rows on this side. Let's just do 5 actually for the sake of time, because I want to see what this does. But keep your jaw to the right, Good. And allow that full motion, go into full scapular protraction, open everything up, and then slowly glide it all the way back in with the jaw to the right. Like he's even horizontally abducting a little bit at that back end with the way he's got set up. Good. One more time. Beautiful. Cool. Chris, pop that down and come stand up for a sec. We'll recheck this motion, and then we'll just kind of chat for a few minutes. So right there, jaw to the right, rotate to the right. Good, jaw to the left. Okay, cool. Right, and so easily, and honestly, for the demonstration side, like I want to open up, I want to have a bit of like the last 10 minutes here, a conversation with you guys. Like I want to, and I don't mean just me talking. I want you to get some open feedback from you. But just from what we've done so far, I mean, Chris, this is the last couple of weeks. Like we'll do more. I want to do more stuff with this next week. But how are you finding this, and what do you think when we were talking about the concussion stuff as it connects to all this? How does this feel to you, and what do you think about all this stuff?
Well, you go back to that law of symmetry, and all the different variations in how we're trying to get everything moving together and running smoothly together.
Yep.
You're calling on the operating system, the brain, that's operating this whole machine. Now we're putting it in, we're stressing it, like you said, a little more with the, with the eye stuff. And see now that left feels a whole lot looser. But like
right.
Challenge that operating system more, and especially like for my goals when I exercise, that's going to be way more impactful, depending on what those clients' goals are. But then how you can open it up to more of the, clients that we work with that do have a lot of brain issues, how just challenging that system, that operating system more than just, moving two things at once. It opens up a whole world for them.
And I mean, this is where I've heard, I know Greg Mack is big on talking about, the medical fitness category. In my opinion, I don't think this is medical fitness. I think this is actually just personal training, but much more personalized. Because the difference between, calling it medical fitness and doing all these small diagnostic things and trying to enter that realm, how many personal trainers do you know that talk about doing exercises for flossing the nervous system and helping the nervous system and coordination and functional strength? This is really functional strength. This is really transferable stuff. And if you have one of these holes and you can identify its influence on range of motion, active range of motion, we're doing this across the screen, I'm not touching you and it's influencing your motion. If we can make a change there, that's personalized training. I love it. And we get close to that symmetry model. Ryan, I know you've heard about some of this stuff before. How's this hitting home with you with doing it over the screen and stuff like that?
Oh, it's cool. The thing I like about muscle testing, kind of what we do, different aspects of it, is you really look into all the stuff that's unexplored in physical therapy and chiropractic care, personal training. It's like there's these parts and connections, and it's like we're not really diving down that kind of path on to see how things work. And I think it's very helpful when you can kind of use that with a client that has those issues, or a lot of people are they're blown away. Like, I didn't even know my eyes connected with my hip or my back or my trunk. And it's like I want to hone that and fine tune that skill a little bit better. I feel like it's uncharted territory and nobody really has really good kind of protocol-ish stuff for it. So I'm liking where it's going.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, and that's the idea, I think, is that, I love that. Thank you, man. Is that but it shouldn't be a protocol. And I know, but like the idea of it's a procedure, like, okay, hip range of motion, hip flexibility is great. And then when someone closes their eyes, it's less great. What? Cool. Like that's new territory. And honestly, if you guys, I mean, Curtis Clay, if you guys know him, good friend of mine, he will, if he sees something crazy like this, and this is a mistake that I've made that he's really done a great job with, is I'll try to email a physician to like let them know what I'm seeing. And I never get an email back. He started recording PowerPoints like this through Zoom. And he's like, hey, I just want to let you know. And he walks through their profile of range of motion and their dynamometer information, and then talks about the decreased range of motion when they close their eyes and what he's doing for it. And he's making some really great connections by doing this, because they start to see, like you said, Ryan, it's kind of like taking that idea of therapy and just kind of, I don't want to say you're not pushing past therapy, but in reality, you're just taking the exercise component that they do in rehabilitative senses and creating new skills, like even on a performance end, and you're just starting at the basic rudiments of it, which is cool. We talk about huge things, symmetry and hip extension and foot motion. All these small pieces play a big part of that. So I love it. Rich, I know this is kind of some crazy new stuff, but are the concepts hitting home? Does it make sense of it?
Yeah, concept definitely. It's very cool to explore how they're all connected. So I'm watching Chris apply it all. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, like you said, new to me, so I'm just absorbing it. It's really cool.
I think from like an entry level, like reading about the eyes, it's just this idea of, if I have one thing happening in my body and I got this other joint system, if I mix up the order and I do A, B, B, A, B, B, A, does it change how the body moves? And if it does, that gives you incredible evidence to explore. So it can be the eyes, it could be the jaw, but it also could be, like we saw with previous weeks, just the foot and the hand. Like it could be kind of crazy, kind of a cool thing to do. So just really quickly to kind of round today up, I've got at least 2 more weeks of us being closed for sure. And I want to make sure that you guys are getting the most out of this case study stuff with Chris, if he's okay with it. Is there anything in particular you guys would like me to explore with him? What I'm thinking for next week is the perturbing and stressing side of things, and exploring the kind of challenging it and calling out. Does that sound interesting to you guys? Ryan likes that. Chris, you like that? Rich likes that. I don't want to ask Taylor. He'll put a fish hook in my mouth with Mickey Mouse on it.
I'm all good for being a guinea pig, as long as I know we need the gym, we got plenty of stuff to play in. I know you can't have people in there, but I can be a person in here.
So last little bit of discussion for today. So next week, so please, Chris, 2 things. Chris, I want you in the gym next Friday for sure. Maybe probably the next 2 Fridays, as long as it's not a huge schedule change, but next Friday for sure. When we're creating...
Wait a minute. Time out. We're not here next Friday.
Okay, no problem. Then we will we'll do something different next Friday, and then next Friday we'll do the perturbing stuff.
Okay.
But perfect example. Guess what, Chris? You have an opportunity to show us the merit of homework. Now, on that note, let's just talk about that to round today out, because I think that'll be a good way to finish up the day. On the homework continuum side of things, right? We saw a couple different things with Chris, and as you guys will know, if you've tried to give homework to someone, most people, if you give them more than 1 or 2 things, most will not do it. So I'm of the personal mindset, I try to give as little homework as possible to see how much we can get things done, because there are amazingly talented, knowledgeable people who don't do their homework. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give Chris 1 piece of homework, and that 1 piece of homework is the most tactful thing that we saw today, and it won't involve any exercise machines, devices, or systems. I wanna make it super simple. So why am I choosing this? The last thing we saw with Chris is that when he did his fish hook to the jaw to the right and the left, mostly to the right, we saw a really big change there. So Chris, what I want you to do for us is you're gonna do 6 reps, don't break anything, 6 reps of standing trunk rotation, wherever you are. If you can, once a day, twice a day if not, if you can. What I want you to do for each of them is you're gonna break it up into 2 groups of 3. You're gonna do the first 3 with your jaw slack to the left. You're gonna do that 3 times, turning both left and right. Then you're gonna do the exact same thing, jaw to the right. and that's it. Okay?
You want me to do that Rubik's Cube rotation? 3 to each side.
Let's do the Rubik's Cube route. Yeah. Sorry.
And then 3 to each side with the right.
Yeah. Draw left 3 times, draw right 3 times. Perfect. On the potentiation side of things, you don't have to look hard in literature to see that any type of contraction will elicit a potentiation response. So I'm not worried about the magnitude of the contraction right now. What I'm trying to do is teach Chris's body to remember these pathways and hold on to them. Because if we can meet 13 days and 23 hours from now again, and Chris has the exact same motion capabilities available, that would be ridiculously awesome. Really awesome. Very quickly, before we round out today, in case it goes without saying for anyone who watches this recording later, we're having a baby June 14th or a little earlier. So openly, we, for not reasons that we want to necessarily, but we're in a position where we're going to be doing a C-section. So I'm going to be off. You guys know I don't really take time off. I'm taking 2 weeks off. And what I'm trying to do is I'm going to probably have Taylor, I'm going to talk to him with his scheduling. He's going to probably run at least the Wednesday meetings while I'm gone. Let's confirm his schedule. I don't want to commit him to this because I know he's listening. And I'm going to see if we can figure something out for the Fridays. But it'll be a little mixed up just for those 2 weeks. And then after, we'll get everything sorted. But I want to make sure you guys are still getting value. And I promise that I won't take any more time off that I don't have to. But humans. So, great stuff today. Any questions to close out today?
If I do be a good student and actually do something on the gym floor with a piece of equipment, what would it be?
What I would do, honestly, is I'd get on that Med-X rotation. I would do the same Med-X rotation thing with the jaw. And if you're feeling super expansive, do it with the eyes up as well.
Got it.
And if you're feeling really expansive, and I'll just throw this out there and we can talk about it, is you can do the same thing with the jaw or the eyes, single arm row, and then single arm chest press. We'll talk about more why next time I see you. All right, humans, great stuff. Like I said, honestly, what we'll do next Friday is I'll do the webinar presentation for you guys next Friday and I'll record it. So it's a little bit less. I have to breeze through this one because it's to the Portuguese guys who've already heard me talk about a lot of this stuff, but I'll do it for you guys and we'll have some fun with it. I think it'll be kind of cool. Is that okay? Cool, guys. All right, we'll see you next Friday for some Portuguese webinar. Just kidding.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.